I just want to talk a little bit about my story so that you know where I'm coming from. I'm not someone who just created this program. I've actually lived through it. I went on my first diet when I was 9 or 10 years old. And by the time I was 12 or 13, I went to my first Weight Watchers meeting, which was where I learned a very toxic belief. And that was that I can't trust myself. That if I eat the way that I want, I will completely blow up, get fat, ugly, be unlovable, and be unworthy. So I have to go on diets. I have to listen to experts. I have to count calories. I can't trust myself. And I lived with that belief for nearly 20 years. It informed everything. When I was 16, I was diagnosed with bulimia, and I was admitted to the eating disorders clinic, and my heart rate was so low that I was at risk for a heart attack, and I still couldn't admit that I had a problem with food because the idea of getting fat was completely unacceptable. At that time, I started working with a therapist who helped me get to a place where I was physically stable. I wasn't physically at risk anymore. And as a result, I believed that I was recovered. I believed that I was healed. But I was not healed. I was completely obsessed with food. I was obsessed with my body. I was valuing myself based on the way that I looked. And that continued for many, many years. I tried pretty much every diet there was. I was always on a diet. I was always watching my weight. Eventually, I ended up on a starvation diet where I was eating practically nothing. And when I got off of that diet, I literally couldn't stop eating. I gained everything back plus much more, and I still couldn't stop eating. And at that point, I felt completely hopeless and didn't know what else to do. And I hated myself. I couldn't live that way anymore. And that was the first moment. That was the first time in my life I actually admitted to myself that I had a problem with food. And that was when I said, I'm healing this. I made a decision to heal it. And that's what I did. It took a year and a half. I soaked up everything I could, everything about eating disorder recovery, everything about self-love, yoga, mindfulness, kindness, all of it. I soaked it all up. And eventually I got there. Eventually the binges stopped, and I shifted my relationship with food to the point that now I actually eat whatever I want. I don't overdo it. I listen to my body, and I treat myself with kindness. From the moment I stopped binging to the moment that I could actually say that I love my body, it took about another 10 months or so. And that one actually still comes up. There are days when I still don't love my body. There are days when I'm feeling vulnerable, and it's a challenge. But at the same time, this is part of why we're here. We're constantly growing. These challenges are opportunities to look at, where is it that I'm still not fully loving myself? Where is it that I still have some work to do? And so I don't see it as a bad thing anymore. I like to think of my eating disorder as a blessing, actually, because we all have addictions in different ways. We all have ways of escaping from reality, from escaping from ourselves. If your addiction is something that you don't physically need to survive, like many addictions, then hypothetically you can heal it by just putting it in a little box, tying a bow around it, and avoiding it, not going there. With food issues, you can't do that. That's why an eating disorder is such a blessing. In order to heal your relationship with food, you have to heal your relationship with yourself. You have no choice but to learn to love yourself. It's so beautiful, because when you do that, when you heal the places in yourself that are looking for your attention, that are acting out because they just want your love and attention, when you heal those places, there's no more temptation at all to behave in self-destructive ways. And then you're actually free.